Hello, welcome to Undisputed Boxing. It's prediction time. I'm here with Rick. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe, leave a comment. Let us know your prediction. What do you think is going to happen in this fight? Sal Alvarez takes on undefeated IBF super middleweight champion Caleb Plant. This is Canelo's third fight this year.
I think so.
Yeah, it is, yeah. Third fight. Billy Joe Saunders, Avni Yildirim, and then he had Callum Smith. So this is actually his fourth fight in under a year.
Yeah, and he was meant to, and this fight was going to happen earlier.
Yeah, it was supposed to happen in September.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's like the key to his success in terms of like his consistent performance and always like fighting top guys and always kind of in pretty much it must always be in camp pretty much. Maybe he takes like 3 or 4 weeks off and then he's straight back into another camp. And, there's been a lot of very patchy performances from, some really, like Mikey Garcia just recently obviously lost, 12 months of inactivity or 18 months in inactivity. It's just not good for them. But big fight.
He didn't take much damage either. So he doesn't have to he probably have like 2 weeks off and get straight back on it.
Yeah. I know. I'm trying to think of the last fight where he did actually, take damage or a cut. I don't like even the Golovkin fights. He got pretty marked up. The first Golovkin fight, definitely, he got marked up. But yeah, it's difficult one to pick out. And he just seems to kind of got better and better. He's getting better with age. I mean, I can. In terms of, I don't mind going first on the prediction on this one. I think we're probably both going to go the same way. I just don't. I've seen quite a bit of Caleb Plant. I've watched a lot more of him just recently in preparation for this prediction video. I just don't. I haven't really seen anything from him that is going to trouble Canelo. He is very tricky. He throws really good combinations. Got good feet. Got a great judge of distance. He's got a great boxing IQ. I think his toughest fight today was and his most impressive win was probably Jose Uzcategui, the Venezuelan, who actually was the mandatory challenger for James DeGale when he was the mandatory challenger for the IBF. And I think that's why James DeGale vacated and then just fought Chris Eubank Jr. and checked out on his career, because that Jose Uzcategui that would have been a tough fight for James DeGale, and I think a lot of people knew of how good he was in those fights that he had against Anthony Durrell. So that's Caleb Plant's probably his best win. Since then, I think he's fought Mike Lee, Vincent Feigenbutz, who's a German super middleweight.
Caleb
Truax. I think that was his last outing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, that was a landslide victory. Wasn't really anything of a kind of a statement win, and Caleb Truax really campaigned most of his career to 160. So, this is a couple of, 2 or 3 levels above, stepping up to fight Canelo. So I just don't really see how he can trouble him. And I see him maybe getting stopped pretty late, maybe in round 10 or 11. Because I think he does have a gas tank issue as well, Caleb Plant. Whether he's kind of ironed out those stamina issues, he really gassed badly against Jose Uzcategui. So we all know that Canelo's got a really good engine, and I just think he'll invest in the body in the body early on. I'd maybe see Canelo. Plant may have some success in the first maybe 2 or 3 rounds. Maybe nick 1 or 2 rounds, but I really see Canelo just kind of running through him, to be honest, and maybe as I say, stopping him in round 10 or 11.
I don't see it too differently, other than probably not the stoppage. I probably think this is, if Plant is on his A game, I see this as probably Canelo's hardest fight since Triple G.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's just got a bit of a style that could cause him. When I say that, it's since, because if you look at everyone else he's fought, he's had it pretty easy. So, Billy Joe calls him a few. I think it might go a bit like the Billy Joe Saunders fight in a sense where for the first 4 rounds, the first third of the fight, it might be a bit nip tuck because I think Caleb Plant's style could be a bit awkward for Canelo to start with because he wants you to come on to him and he almost sticks his head out a little bit. And he keeps his hands low and the jab comes up and he just might get caught a few times coming in because he's a good counter puncher.
Yeah. He really likes to use his feints, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he's got good. He pivots well out of trouble, and he's good He's got good fundamentals, really. And I just think he will a bit like Billy Joe in a sense where he's got good fundamentals, but it's just the power was lacking really, and the offense side of things, where I think Caleb's a bit more polished there. So I think he's just a bit more all round, bit of a more all rounder. And I got the feeling he's got a bit more dog in him. Someone like Smith. I think Smith probably had the skill and the talent to do more. But either way, I think after 4 or 5 rounds, it'll be quite close. And then later rounds, I think the engine will just step up and it'll go through. But I do think Caleb will survive. But I do think he won't really win any of the final 6 rounds.
Do you think points?
Points, but like relatively convincing points.
Yeah.
But I do think even that will probably be still be a tougher fight than a lot of his more recent ones because the Smith fight was pretty much a landslide.
It was, but I do think that on paper, Callum Smith was a tougher fight. There's something tells it didn't. No, but Callum Smith wasn't. He didn't perform.
Yeah.
No, and I think did he get injured as well? Did he have an injured bicep?
There was an arm issue.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying it's his toughest fight because the other ones weren't as tough. If before the Smith fight, I would have said I probably think Smith would cause him more problems, but he didn't. Yeah. So not on paper. I mean, in reality, I don't think he's had much of a tough fight since Triple G, and I think this will be not a particularly tough fight, but be more of one. And I think halfway through we'll be like Caleb's in this. He's won a few rounds, but the tide will be starting to turn. And I just think Canelo's so clever as well. He'll adapt within the fight. I'm not sure if Caleb will be able to adapt and change, and he may know he's down and then start going looking for it, which isn't his style. Yeah. He's better when someone's going looking for him. So he may that might be a time when he could get chin because he goes looking for it. But at the end of the day, the way I see it is Plant's not a big hitter. You look at his record, I think he's like 21-0 with 12 KOs.
Yeah.
And there's not many KOs recently. So he ain't knocking Canelo out, is he? Even if he connects with him.
I just can't see it.
And I think he's got a fair chin on him himself. I don't think he's ever been down. So that doesn't mean he can't get knocked out. And if someone said there is a knockout, then I definitely think it'd be him. But yeah, I just think he's got quite a bit of dog in him, and I think he'll weather the storm and get through it. And it may be a bit like the Smith fight at the end, where the last 3 rounds are just a survival job.
Yeah. I really do hope that he does stop him as well. I'm not really a fan of Caleb Plant in terms of how he conducts himself. He's a bit of a gobshite, isn't he? I don't know if you saw, he was having a slugging match with James DeGale. I think it was at the Caleb Truax weigh-in. I remember him causing troubles. That was actually the first I'd heard of him. I was like, who's this, Caleb Plant? Yeah, I hope Canelo does a number on him. Yeah, it's difficult to see where.
Well, I mean, I'm not. I think they're not always great for boxing. Sometimes PBC. So, yeah,
it's difficult to see where Canelo's biggest challenge comes from. I think
probably if he steps up more.
Yeah. Because it's going to completely clean up the super middleweight division.
Well, I mean, what's he do after this? That's the thing. If he wins this, what's he do next year? I mean, how old is he? Is he 31?
31, 32. Yeah, he's not old.
So he's got a couple more years in him, hasn't he?
At least
at the highest level, and he keeps himself in good nick, so he could go on longer. But in terms of his absolute peak, So yeah, does he? I don't know. There's not much. You got to think when you've done this, you go for legendary status, and you look at all the belts he's won. He's unified, and you got stepping down and facing Andrade. It isn't going to be legendary status. Maybe fighting the Charlo is, or does Charlo come up? But will PBC throw in him if he's destroyed Plant? I think his best case is going into the next division. There's just not many big names there.
No, Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol would be I think Dmitry Bivol is probably the most likely, because obviously he's with Matchroom.
Yeah,
I think that Charlo brings the biggest challenge, actually. Jamel Charlo.
Yeah, to step up and clean up the lightweight division would be pretty special, but there aren't those global names there, are there? So there'd be some people that say, "Oh, if you go and clean that up, it's not as good as going back down and beating Charlie."
Yeah.
I think it is bigger if you went uncleaned up, and you've got people like Buatsi coming through in that and stuff. And imagine that fight in a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah.
Canelo versus Buatsi would be great.
Yeah. That would be good.
And I would see a Buatsi in a year and a half causing trouble for Canelo.
Yeah, he's definitely probably one of the biggest talents we've got on these shores at the moment, actually, or most promising. Let's see. All right, we'll do a quick review on Sunday of this, and then we'll do some more predictions for next week. We've got the calendar's looking pretty good between now and Christmas, so lots of prediction vids, and thanks everybody for listening. Is there anything else?
No, I think that's good. We've done news already. We did news yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we'll do some more news on Sunday if there's anything else that's come out, and then I'll speak to you on Sunday. All right, we're out.
Later.